Okay, what we have on the bench here is a Stratocaster that I've been told has a dead bridge pickup. Now, chances are that that's exactly what it is. There could be a couple of other things that cause that, but you know, the first thing I would do is first test it while we got it together here, you know, to make sure that that's in fact what we have going on. I could sit here and put a voltmeter on this, or I can just plug it up and see how it's working. Now in that position, that is what's happening. And what I will do is actually check, you know, you can tap the pickups to see if they're on. And that is not on in the position that's usually both of these pickups. It's just that one, so that was a correct assessment as far as we know from here. Next, what we're gonna do is to learn anything else, we're gonna have to take this guitar apart and make that happen. This one has a locking tuner, so you have to actually unscrew these guys. All right, next thing I'm gonna do is just get these strings out of here, get all the things out of the way that I need to be out of the way to get to the pick guard and take it off. One thing I notice is, you know, whenever you let the tension off the strings, sometimes the tremolo will go where the strings actually won't come out. So we're gonna have to actually unscrew this back plate so we can get to the strings out of there and get them out of our way. Some people use power screwdrivers a lot for taking things in, and I know there's a speed thing involved with that, but just been my experience, it's pretty easy to damage something when you're doing that, especially putting them in. Easy to strip things, and you know, I see guys going after it and doing that, and I just get in the habit of using my hands and manipulating things that way, and I just feels a little safer working around the guitar. A lot of times when I'm pulling strings out, you know, just so happens that this is just these locking tuners and there isn't a bunch of curls in the end. But sometimes I just cut the string so I don't have any trouble yanking it through the bridge. And as I unscrew these screws too, I mean, you can get a little container here, but I mean, my bench does get messy after a while. And but keeping everything, and just being thoughtful about keeping everything together, and so you don't lose screws or, you know, get a little container for them or whatever, as opposed to a big cluttered bench and trying to dig for this stuff later. Make sure you give the client back his screws, and you're not short any. Another way I was going to show before I pulled this pick guard off here is if you want to test if there's signal coming out of pickups. Another way to do that, if you have a simple ohm meter, is you can just plug in a cable, and it's a way to test, like if you're not next to an amplifier, to see if actually you have signal coming through. And so I'm touching the black, the ground, to the main body, which is the ground of the cable, and the red to the tip. The position of the switch is on the neck pickup. And as you see there, you can see that the load that's on the neck pickup there on the screen. I'll move it to just the middle pickup, and you can see I've got a load there of, you know, 6 about, and then we'll move it all the way to the bridge pickup, and we'll confirm electronically that yes, indeed, that pickup no signal is getting from that pickup to the jack. Now we're going to remove the pick guard. So as we're doing that, I realized that there's a little fingerboard extension that comes here over the pick guard. And the simple fact is, with the pickup in here, we're not going to be able to remove this until we actually remove the neck, so that we can get to it. So actually we're going to remove the neck next. And while I do that, I will put a couple of pick guard screws back in to hold it in position, because I only want one thing falling apart at a time so I can keep control of it so we don't damage the instrument, and don't want the pick guard to just kind of fall out onto the top or something if we don't have control of it. Go. Oh cool, there's a little tone styler in there. I really like those things, those are pretty cool. Now about putting the pick guard on here, you know, a lot of times just want to, you know, to get to this stuff, just be aware of the finish on the body and stuff, because we don't want this pick guard and the top of it to just bang around on the guitar everywhere. And I think this will be adequate here. It's in areas that are covered by the pick guard, and we can just see what's going on here. I can sure see here that somebody was thoughtful about their grounding. Everything is grounded to this just one point here, and the great thing about doing that, about star grounding your inside the instrument, is that if you send all the grounds from everything to different places, what you can create, actually, you can create ground hum, or you can end up creating where the cavity is almost like another guitar pickup. If you've got enough grounds going to different places, it will it'll make almost another little circuit with the grounds. And so this is ideal. This is kind of over the top nerdy stuff. It's been my experience. My client of this guitar is kind of over the top nerdy sort of guy, but it's really effective. I know several builders who start grounding their preamps. They don't need shielding or anything, because that takes care of any of that kind of problem. We said star grounding. Here's what I'm talking about. We've got all the ground contacts from the pickups and from the input jack all coming to one point. And actually, that's the way when they do tech power for recording studios and everything, to make sure there isn't ground loops and you won't get ground hum, they will actually take all the outlets and take ground from each of them and send it all the way to the true ground that's actually jammed into the ground. So that's what we're talking about. And here's what he's used right here. So to make sure that it really is the pickup that is out, what I'm going to do next is go ahead and unsolder it from the switch, because it could be like that the last little leg contact on the switch. And the other thing that could be wrong is something could be wrong there. But I will unsolder this and test it with the ohm meter again, just to double check, because if it's the switch, then we won't have to undo this. We'll just pull the switch out, unsolder this, and redo that, as opposed to doing this and that, if that was the problem. So that's what I'm testing next. Turn on my little trusty soldering station. Now, most, as far as, here's one where you can actually adjust your temperature. I mean, some of them are just, you know, a little handheld that has its temperature, whether it's a 40 watt or whatever. But this, kind of a standard temperature for a large tipped soldering station, somewhere like, you know, 630 or 650 are in there. And I'm using a little smaller tip so I can get into tight spaces with all this as my general soldering iron. And so I've kind of just cranked it up a little bit, just so I don't have to sit here and heat components up without moving solder. Oh yeah, one thing before I solder this, because you have to make sure you have some solder available here, just get your kind of standard rosin core solder. It's a rosin core solder from Radio Shack, and that's what we're going to use for putting the you know, the other pickup back, if that is in fact what we have going on. So now we're going to just double check that we indeed have a dead pickup here. Sure enough, I'm touching ground, touching positive, whole lot of nothing. So it's gotta go. Just out of curiosity, because I know this pickup is dead, I was just going to take a peek at it and see if I could see any physical damage that caused a break in this circuit so that it wasn't functional anymore. And there's nothing that I can see. As you can see, we've got these little fine wires, and you can imagine that, you know, even though you think, well, how does a pickup go bad? Well, you know, that little tiny insulated wire right there on each side is all you got, you know, to connect that circuit of the pickup wrapped around magnets to make the magnetic field that we're breaking there when we play. So I don't see any, but there's a break somewhere in there. Well, next is we're gonna set this up, we have the other pickup we've provided here. Now, I know that I was told that these were Lindy Fralin pickups, and here we have a Joe Barden pickup. One thing to consider when you're mixing brands of pickups is that you'll have different colored leads. They might be wound with the polarity is different. So there's, you know, we're gonna have to pay attention to make sure that this is working with theirs, that it's in phase, that the polarity is the same, so that when these two pickups are we're in that switch position, that they aren't out of phase with each other. And so when you're blending brands, there's you know, a couple of issues. And also, what's different from this pickup and the ones that are in here, I see that this is actually a double coil humbucking pickup, and so we actually have you know, 4-conductor wire as opposed to these 2-conductor wires, and that has its own deal. Luckily, they've already put the coils together for us, and since there isn't a coil tap or anything like that going on, we'll just check out their directions and we'll know basically what to do and how to solder this up. And one thing also I had to think about, there's to understand the color coding on this. Luckily I have the sheet here and understand that the green and bare wire are going to go to ground and that black is hot. And besides the fact that we're mixing manufacturers, the other thing we're mixing is single coil pickups and a double coil pickup. Now the manufacturer recommends that you use a 500K pot on this. The reason being is for clarity of a humbucker, and that's just built to do that. These single coils have recommended to use a 250K pot, which doesn't let as much high end in. If you put these on a 500K pot, they will be quite brash. And so you just have to understand that if we, as we're mixing these, this will be a little less ideal according to the manufacturer. It'll be a little darker than you would have if you just got to put the ideal pot with this pickup. So just part of the deal when you're mixing and matching, you have to do this sort of thing. First thing I'm going to do before I attach the pickup to the pick guard, physically mount it, is that we're going to kind of prepare it, prepare the wires and all. Like there's not enough of the, you know, the strands of bare wire revealed. I want to connect the ground and the green wire. They have to go together. And also, you know, you have to make a decision about, you know, the length of wire. It's been my experience that when people are putting pickups into the guitar, there's a, especially when we're mixing manufacturers and kinds of pickups, that there's a chance they're gonna yank this rascal out after a while. And so I don't wanna just cut this short, because he's bought this pickup, he may wanna use it in something else where it requires more length. So I'm not gonna just cut this to, you know, mount it, cut it to size, and make the wires so they just get to everywhere they're gonna go. Now, if I was manufacturing an instrument, you know, from scratch, that's what I would do. I would, because these are the pickups that come with this guitar. But since, you know, it's a client that I understand likes to tinker and stuff, there's a chance he may remove this. I'm not gonna take any of the length out, and we'll just secure the extra loop inside the cavity here so it's not a pain in the butt. And just thought I'd, you know, mention that in case you know, start cutting things off and cutting them short and stuff. That's just a consideration. I'm gonna strip these wires down just a little bit so I reveal some more. Now, some guys have like little wire strippers and stuff. I still use a razor, and the reason is I'll just kind of score it around, don't really cut all the way through. I mean, I'm used to how it feels to do this. And that way then I leave the most strands. A lot of times if you use a wire stripper, you'll take a few strands with you when you do it. And I just feel like I get a little more control this way. Now realize when you're soldering, you want to actually touch the heat to the wires and then touch the solder to both at the same time, because you want the wires to be heated up so that the solder makes a really good bond, as opposed to putting solder on the tip and taking it to the wires. Because the good connections happen when you heat up everything that's that you're soldering together or soldering to. What I just did was connect the green wire to the bare wire. That's what the manufacturer said. This is the way this functions. This green wire is actually a lead. Now this bare wire actually is coming from you know, shielding and stuff around the pickup. And so I could, if I wanted to change the polarity and leave this pickup in position, I could unsolder this, and I could solder the black to the bare wire and use the green as hot, and that would switch the pickup completely around. So just so you know that all four of these are actual leads from the coils, and this bare wire, and then whenever there is an extra bare wire, is usually from like the body of the pickup here. In this case, I can see that it's connected to actually some shielding around the magnet and stuff. Now I'm going to pre-tin the hot off here, meaning that I'll go ahead and have solder on it. So that's one thing that I won't have to do, you know, and also I'll make sure and have good contact to the leg on the switch. The other thing to realize here, as I saw a little puff of smoke there, it reminded me that, you know, a lot of times people will solder and then they'll blow on it. Well, you don't want to actually blow on this, especially when you're putting it to a contact point, because if you blow on it, it's moist air. You can actually get condensation in the joint. And although it feels tight and everything, you're take the risk of having a cold solder joint later, where it can actually, that little layer of moisture can actually allow it to work itself loose and come loose later. So don't blow on your solder joints. It'll get hard, just let it do its thing. And you know, stay out of the smoke too. It's not really all that good for you. All right, we're ready to mount this pickup to the pick guard. I'm just going to use our little rubber grommets we had from before. Cool thing about them too is they'll hold that screw in place. Now we're on to, we're going to get this pickup soldered in here. Now the little grounding system that the guy had here, I kind of like it. So we're going to put it back just that way. And I've already got the, you know, the pickup wires here are prepared. And here's the other grounds from the other pickup wires. We're basically going to attach it to the center ground that he's got attached here. And also he had nice heat shrink and everything on there. We're going to do all that too. So I'm going to utilize my little soldering arm to keep everything in position. Sometimes when you have to solder a bunch of wires at once, there's always one that doesn't want to do what you tell it. And so this is going to help us keep everything together until we can complete this part here. And first I'm going to get these wires here together, since we've got my little clamp holding them. And then I'm going to get them all up to the, see if actually now we have to hold them and let them give it an opportunity to cure there, make sure that it doesn't have an chance to come apart. Now the cool thing about getting ready to put this heat shrink over this joint so that it can, it helps with strength and also keeps your grounds from touching anything. I get to use my handy dandy little butane torch, which any opportunity to use that is cool. So we've got that guy, and we'll cover that joint with the heat shrink that I put on there, and just go all the way. You don't have to like cook it, like burn it. If you just get it heated so it all just shrinks in and covers nice and tight on your thing there, then that'll get us taken care of. Here we go. We'll just do the same way we did before, and see if we got signal here. I've got it in the bridge position on the switch. Make sure the volume is up, and sure enough, we've got signal. Now we're ready to get this thing put back together. I will just put a few of the screws in this pick guard, because there's always a chance that for some reason something's not totally straight, and we may have to get back in there, and so there's no reason to have to do anything twice. I'll just get this pick guard secure so I can get the neck on, and we'll get some strings on this guy and start and see where we're at. I haven't really A-B'd what kind of a difference it makes when you're putting screws in a neck, but I kind of do it, and I was kind of told by mentors to do it where you do it kind of like the lugs on a car tire. You kind of get everything reasonably tight, and then you, instead of just cranking down one side or the other side all the way, just kind of go across, crank, you know, get one reasonably tight, get the other one reasonably tight, and then kind of go across the joint. That way then everything really, because this connection of the neck to the body, making sure that it's right has, I think, a tremendous amount to do with how this instrument speaks, the body of the tone. Because I know the tighter and that I got the neck joints on the instruments I build, the more integrated and the better that those instruments sounded. And so even when you're, even though this is a, you know, that neck joint isn't specifically tight, but we want just really good contact between the heel of your neck and this body. Well, the client had asked for on a Stratocaster, which is interesting and different to, I think he's gonna, we're gonna put some flats on here. So let's get these out and get them started. I'll just thread them all through the bridge and we'll get this, get it, you know, tuned up to pitch, and we'll see what we sound like. Now, since I'm putting on a larger gauge of string, chances are I'll have to make a neck adjustment and an intonation adjustment, but that's just what happens when you change. And also flats, anyway, even if they were the same gauge, you'd probably have to make those adjustments because there'll be a different tension on them. I saw that the client had a little bit of length on these strings, and I kind of like to do what people are used to and what they like, unless there's a specific reason not to do it. Now I knew that with these bigger strings and flatwounds, we'd have to adjust the tremolo and, you know, get that. I don't know where it's going to land yet because we're not at pitch, but just kind of. These are pretty big strings. There's a chance even that we might have to add a spring or two. We'll just see what happens. And now we're going to plug this thing up and make sure we're up and running. So we're in that bridge position, and that sounds like we're up and running all right. And we'll make sure that everything's working. Now the issue I think that we, you know, we're worried about maybe that we'd have some kind of signal differences because of the humbucker. I'd say that's a non-issue. That thing sounds nice and bright and full, and we'll just make sure that pickups are balanced like the client wants them. Put these pick guard screws back in, do a setup for this different kind and different gauge of strings, and he'll be ready to go. Yeah, I think that looks good. All right. Yep, I think we're good to go on that. sure it's all cleaned up for the client at the end here. So there we are. We got this pickup problem done. Got a new pickup in there. Sounds great. Any concerns that we might have had with the difference in manufacturer kind of pickup were allayed. It's awesome. We're done. Looks like we're going to have a happy client.